We now discuss five elements theory. This time we talk about cycle of generation, restriction, over restriction, counter restriction. Generating cycles among the five elements. Sheng refers to generation. Generation among the five elements means that one of the five elements generates and helps another element in the five elements. The order of generation among the five elements is as follows. Wood generates fire, fire generates earth, earth generates metal, metal generates water, and water generates wood. In the generating relationships, each element has two sides of being generated or generating. The generating one is considered to be mother, while the one being generated is considered as the child. Therefore, the generating relationships among the five elements are so-called mother-child relationship. Take wood as an example. Wood is generated by water, so water is the mother of wood, and wood is the son of water. Wood generates fire, so wood is the mother of fire, while fire is the son of wood. Restriction among the five elements. The Chinese character code refers to restriction. Restriction among the five elements means that one of the five elements restricts and checks another element in the five elements. The order of restriction is as follows. Wood restricts earth, earth restricts water, water restricts fire, fire restricts metal, metal restricts wood. In the restricting relationships among the five elements, each element has two sides of being restricted and restricting. The one being restricted is the phase that is dominated by another, while the one restricting is the phase that dominates the other. Take wood, for example. The one that restricts wood is metal, and the one that is restricted by wood is earth. Thus, metal is called the dominator of wood, and earth is called the subordinate of wood. Generation and restriction among the five elements are two inseparable aspects, which expresses concretely that there is restriction within generation and there is generation within restriction. For example, wood generates fire and also restricts earth. Earth restricts water and also generates metal. The relationships of restriction within the generation and generation within restriction can be the key to maintain the coordination and balance of everything. Over-restriction and counter-restriction among the five elements. These two cycles indicate the abnormal relationships among the five elements. Over-restriction means excessive restriction. In five elements, it refers to an abnormal condition in which one element of the five elements excessively restricts its restricting element, namely over-restriction. It has the same sequence as the restricting cycle. Counter-restriction means the reverse restraint. It refers to an abnormal condition in which one element of the five elements reversely restrains and bullies the element that restricts it. Its sequence is just the opposite of the restricting cycle. There are two causes that result in over-restriction and counter-restriction. One is due to the one element being overly powerful, which either excessively restrains the element that it normally restrains, or reversely restricts the element that originally restricts it. For example, if wood is too powerful, it will excessively restrain earth, leading to the deficiency of earth, which is called wood over-restricting earth. As another example, under the condition of too much power of wood, it is not only being restricted by metal, but also reversely restricts metal. This cycle is called wood counter-restricts metal. The other is that one element among the five elements becomes too weak, which causes either the element that restricts it being relatively hyperactive or the element being originally restricted by it being relatively powerful. Hence, the cycle of over-restricting or counter-restricting occurs. For example, if the strength of earth itself gets weaker, then the strength of restriction of earth by wood becomes relatively enhanced, and it will make earth more deficient. This cycle is called wood over-restricts earth. As another example, when the powerfulness of metal gets too weak, it cannot restrict wood anymore, and it will be reversely restricted by wood. This cycle is called wood counter-restricts metal. Both over-restriction and counter-restriction are abnormal restrictions, and they both have differences and similarities. The difference is that over-restriction has the same sequences as the restricting cycle, except that one element is being overly restricted, while the counter-restriction follows the same sequence as the restricting cycle besides the abnormal restricting cycle. The similarities are that when the over-restriction occurs, the counter-restricting cycle can appear at the same time and vice versa. Thank you for listening.